address respective concerns too. At the moment, what you see on your screens are live visuals coming in. We are expecting Xi Jinping to appear shortly. But a crucial meeting lined up between the US President and the Chinese President amid their intensified tariff war. It's the first meeting in 6 years. Trump, ahead of their meeting, has expressed optimism and said he's looking forward to meeting Xi Jinping. In fact, he's teased the meeting and called themselves the G2 as well. The US President has tagged himself and Xi Jinping the G2. Priyanka Deo still with us at the moment. Priyanka, take us through the tone coming in from Trump's camp as well as China this morning ahead of this crucial meeting.
Well, China has officially confirmed that Xi will meet Trump in Busan. He's expected to arrive at any moment. But this signals in-depth communications on strategic as well as long-term issues. So it's not just about trade talks today. So the meeting, the G2 summit, if you can call it that, is expected to focus on not only trade tensions, which includes tariffs, rare earth export controls, as well as investment restrictions between the US and China. But it's also supposed to signal maybe longstanding geopolitical issues that the US and China have had. So they might talk about that as well. In parallel, Trump was also presented a golden crown by the South Korean president during his visit as part of a broader investment and trade talks between the US and South Korea ahead of the China meeting. So this matters because this meeting comes at a moment when the US-China trade war threatens global supply chains and tech markets. The Busan summit is seen as high stakes, but also as an opportunity to stabilize long-term frictions. And for countries like India, this summit is consequential because it may reshape how US and China engage economically as well as geopolitically, as well as strategically and economically, potentially altering India's role, dare I say, reducing it in terms of global trade and diplomacy. So I'm sure Modi is watching and New Delhi has to act fast if the talks go well.
Indeed. Meanwhile, Priyanka, take us through the red lines on both sides. Does Trump have any red lines heading into this crucial meeting? And the same for Xi Jinping.
I would say that yes, both sides do have red lines, right? Trump has to appease his base. He's under a lot of pressure in the US in terms of, let's get a win over here. Have any of the trade deals with any of the major countries gone through? But according to Chinese official statements, China has also identified four to five major red lines for its relations with the US. Number one is Taiwan, right? China regards the Taiwan question as non-negotiable and sees U.S. support for Taiwan independence as a direct violation. Number two, China's political system. It's got a poor record of democracy and human rights narratives. China rejects external attempts to challenge its one-party socialist system. Number three is China's development rights, its economic growth path. China is a country that insists that the U.S. must not seek to contain its economic development or impose unfair trade. And there have been reports that Beijing will strictly counter Trump in terms of unfair trade. And number four is, of course, its governance model. China's basically its system and its path. It demands that the U.S. respect its system and not attempt to undermine it or treat it as inferior. So those are China's sort of red lines. In short, China is signaling that while cooperation is possible, that's why Xi has gone all the way over there, certain domains like Taiwan, system legitimacy, development autonomy are off limits. So breaching them invites a hard reaction.
Indeed. Meanwhile, tell us about whether officials in the US are genuinely confident of a breakthrough, or are they trying to contain expectations as we speak?
Well, the U.S. is under pressure too. While they always maintain that they are very, very confident, Trump does a great job of that, at least asserting confidence. There are some, as you said, red lines for the U.S. as well, right? So I think number one is technology export controls, especially semiconductor dominance. The U.S. insists on restricting China's access to advanced chips and AI tools, seeing them as strategic assets, where China asserts that you can't contain our economic development. Number two is, of course, tariffs and trade deficits, supply chain decoupling, I guess you can say. The U.S. demands fairer trade, more Chinese purchases of U.S. goods, and firm steps against unfair subsidies. So if you go to a store over here, everything, like if you go to a Walmart or a Target over here, almost everything will be made in China, but you don't see that in China. So a failure sort of triggers tariff threats. Number three is, of course, rare earths and critical minerals access, which has been in mainstream media articles and on NDTV as well. With China controlling much of that supply chain, the U.S. views exclusion or export restrictions as unacceptable. And of course, Taiwan for the U.S. as well, right? In terms of Indo-Pacific alliances. So while more flexible, the U.S. treats its commitments, for example, arms sales to Taiwan, partner alliances like the Quad, as very serious. The U.S. stepping back on Taiwan, especially today, would be a major shift. So there's pressure on both sides for sure. And on the record, both
Priyanka,
countries...
I sincerely apologize. I'm interrupting you again. As we can see, the Chinese president has arrived in South Korea. We can see he is descending off his plane at the moment, and he will be heading into a crucial meeting with Donald Trump, a historic meeting, facing a delicate test. In fact, even for Trump, it's more than optics. Xi Jinping has touched down in South Korea ahead of his meeting with Trump. All eyes are on the key developments emerging from Busan in South Korea. The US president heads into this historic meeting with the Chinese leader, facing a test of projecting strength against America's top adversary without triggering another economic shock at home for him. Laura Westbrook joins us with the latest from South Korea.
This is US President Donald Trump's first meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping since he began his second term in office, and their first meeting in person since 2019. Now, negotiators from both sides say a framework has been agreed leading up to the meeting, and Donald Trump has projected optimism ahead of the meeting, saying he thinks it would yield a great outcome for the world. And Trump has also indicated that the agreement could include lowering 20% tariffs on Chinese goods that are related to the drug fentanyl. High on the agenda will be rare earths. China went into these talks by leveraging its chokehold on the supply of the critical minerals, announcing it was expanding its restrictions on the exports of rare earths. Beijing said that was a response to the US putting Chinese groups on a trade blacklist. And Donald Trump had threatened to slap an additional 100% tariffs on Chinese imports from November 1st in retaliation. But US Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, has said that that was effectively off the table after this weekend's talks. Now, China dominates the global supply of rare earths, which are used in everything from smartphones to EVs to fighter jets and drones. The US wants more access to rare earths from China. Donald Trump will also want to finalize a deal on TikTok, transferring it to US ownership. He will also be hoping for the Chinese to buy soybeans again, easing the pain on American farmers, a key support base of Trump's. Now, China will be looking for access to advanced computer chips, those fentanyl tariffs removed, and adjustment to port fees. Analysts say the meeting is a chance to reset the relationship and possibly secure a visit by Donald Trump to visit China next year.
Priyanka, just focusing on tech now, semiconductors, rare earths and artificial intelligence. Is tech supremacy still the silent war beneath this diplomatic engagement that's coming up?
To answer your question, yes, the big question here is that can Trump strike a deal with Xi? And some enabling factors are definitely technology. But the good news is that both sides show an interest in reducing tension and stabilizing trade, labor, technology flows. Trump, in fact, has publicly expressed optimism about reaching a tech deal, a sort of fantastic deal in terms of trade and tech with China. China has also signaled its willingness to compromise. So China may be willing today to make concessions in areas like rare earth export controls and technology processing in exchange for U.S. tariff relief or investment. But with that being said, there are major hurdles. The core issues are open access to Chinese markets, intellectual property, state subsidies, strategic tech. These are deeply structural things and things that take longer than a few hours to work out. So China views many of these as part of its development model. And Trump must satisfy business constituencies back at home, manufacturing workers, farmers, while also confronting critics in his own party and opposition who view any deal with suspicion. So it's time and verification here. Implementation of any deal would require complex mechanisms, monitoring, and trust, which has been low historically with China for sure.
Priyanka, thanks so much for joining us with all the details and contextualizing the visit for us. We'll, of course, revert to you for regular updates. Donald Trump and Xi Jinping are meeting in South Korea, and behind those firm handshakes that we are about to see, there's a very specific to-do list. Let's actually start with the big picture, which is trade. Both nations have been locked in a tariff tug-of-war for months, as we've been covering on NDTV. The United States has slapped extra duties on Chinese imports. China hit back with its own, and the global markets, well, they are holding their breath. So what does each side want heading into this crucial meeting? Let's focus on Trump's agenda first. He's looking to claim victory, a deal that says America's winning again. He's actually pushing hard for China to curb exports of chemicals used in fentanyl production. That's become a massive domestic issue for him, by the way. He's expected to buy more. He's actually pushing China to buy more American soybeans to ease pressure from US farmers back home, and possibly relax its grip on rare earth minerals, those precious materials that power everything from electrical vehicles to fighter jets. Now let's flip the table to Xi Jinping's agenda. He wants relief from US tariffs and restrictions on advanced tech exports, especially semiconductor chips. And quietly, Beijing wants the US to dial down its open support for Taiwan, which remains a red line issue for China. But let me tell you the tricky part. Both men need a win, and neither wants to look weak or bad. Trump's team has floated a framework deal, soybeans for tariff pauses, fentanyl controls for trade relief, but so far you must note there are no signatures. If they find middle ground, markets calm down, so your phone, your car, your portfolio might all benefit. If not, we could be staring at another trade thaw. So you can't ignore that when these two superpowers will sit down in just a few moments from now, it's not just about them. It's actually about all of us. These are live visuals coming in at the moment from South Korea. All eyes are on that crucial meeting between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping in Busan in South Korea. Donald Trump and Xi Jinping are set to meet today in a high-stakes summit. Officials, meanwhile, on both sides say that they are optimistic of the tangible outcomes as far as this crucial engagement is concerned. But lots is at stake, as we have been covering. Trump has called this the G2 meeting in his post on Truth Social just a few minutes ago. But this high-stakes encounter, the first between the two men in more than 6 years, it comes after months of tariff wars and escalating rhetoric that have rattled markets and strained global supply chains, and at a moment when Trump is actually eager to prove that his economic nationalism can still deliver concrete wins. In fact, Trump has just tweeted a few minutes ago as well, where the US president said that he is looking forward to meeting the president of China. Priyanka Deo and Vishnu Shom have been tracking the latest for us. Vishnu Shom is with us at the moment. Let's quickly get in an update from him as well. Vishnu, in terms of global supply chains, rare earths, what's the larger impact of a possible US-China thaw on emerging markets like ours in India?
Richard Nixon, I would assume that Trump views Xi as the real enchilada or as the big enchilada. And therefore, if there is a trade agreement between China and the United States, it would be a very big takeaway for him. The equation between Trump and Xi has been fairly testy. There have been sanctions imposed on both sides. Both have gone up above 100% on sanctions. The United States would be looking forward to getting access to Chinese rare earths on a reliable basis. Chinese would be very interested for export controls by America to be lifted on high-tech items. Those are certainly things that China will be looking at. But it's the first visit in 6 odd years, or meeting in 6 odd years. And I think anything which takes this equation forward is important. The United States president is also likely to, raise the issue of fentanyl and the reported export of fentanyl, which is a drug, to North America, which has resulted in, people falling deeply unwell, drug addictions and the like. It's a major health risk in the United States. That's something that Trump may also seek, some sort of assurance from. But remember, in all of this, there has always been this carrot out as far as China is concerned. Unlike India, which has faced sanctions from the United States because of our continued import of Russian oil, China hasn't faced any sanctions on its import of Russian oil, which has been greater at certain stages than even India. So this is a different relationship economically than the one that Trump has with India. He'd like to have a deal with India as well. He said so yesterday. But right now he's about to meet the Chinese president in this very, very critical meeting between the world's two strongest leaders.
Right. Meanwhile, Priyanka, any internal pushback within the US establishment, especially from defense or tech lobbies, about softening the stance on China?
I mean, in general, the world is watching closely to see whether we witness a breakthrough today or just walk away with a stalemate that's dressed up as diplomacy. As you said, both men need to look good. Both men need to look like they have won without showing any weakness. So on the table today are tariffs, technology controls, supply chains, rare earths, and yes, the future of platforms like TikTok. Both leaders have signaled willingness to talk, but neither is prepared to cross core red lines. For the US and for Trump, that means protecting semiconductor dominance, restricting sensitive tech transfer, and demanding fairer trade terms. And for Xi, for China, it means defending its political model, its development trajectory, and its strategic space. So they are going to face a lot of pushback if they don't do this. And that's why today's meeting may deliver symbols, not substance, a framework instead of a full deal, a language of cooperation without the specifics that settle the hardest issues. But even a partial agreement today, especially around TikTok's operational structure, its ownership, or tariffs sequencing, would count as a diplomatic win for both, giving both sides political breathing room and global markets relief.
Right. Meanwhile, we also have senior journalist Daniel Block with us this morning. Daniel, glad to have you back. Always a pleasure to chat with you. Would you say Trump is using this entire meeting and the summit to send a signal not just to China but also back home to US voters that he's actually capable of resetting great power equations irrespective of his tough stance, which include all the tariff measures and the threats coming in thick and fast?
It is a very important part of this. Trump loves to claim that he's ended wars, that he's ended conflicts. He seems to have almost limitless faith in his ability to solve, as you said, or to temper down great power tensions and great power conflict. He seems to think he can do it through sheer force of personality alone. Now, I'm very skeptical of that. I think we may get some positive noise or signals out of this out of this meeting. But I'm really skeptical, like Priyanka, that this is going to lead to any kind of major breakthrough. I think we'll see some symbolic steps, some symbolic measures. I expect we'll see a commitment to continue talking. But I think kind of like what we've seen with Russia and Ukraine, and kind of like we saw with Trump and China during Trump's first term in office, the structural forces that are pushing the United States and China into a kind of confrontational stance are just very powerful. And I don't think that Trump alone can fix that.
Right. Meanwhile, Daniel, Do we see signs then of a US-China managed rivalry evolving, at least with the initiative of these two men meeting? Or would you say there's still a zero-sum competition cloaked in diplomatic niceties? Sorry, I beg your pardon. At the moment, what you can see on your screens is both the leaders are together. You can see Donald Trump and Xi Jinping, they're together in the latest visuals that are coming in from Busan in South Korea. Lots of questions ahead of this crucial meeting that's about to take place. When the world's two largest economies sit across the table, as you know, the world watches very keenly. All eyes are currently on Busan, where the US President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping are meeting. There's a lot at stake, not just in terms of bilateral ties, but the temperature of the entire world economy. As you've seen in the last few months, there's been fiery rhetoric, there have been tit-for-tat tariffs, tech wars that we've witnessed. Both Washington and Beijing are now striking a noticeably softer tone with this meeting expected in a short while from now. Aditya Raj Kaul also joins us this morning. Aditya, take us through the latest visuals. We can see both the two men have met. Do we see signs of US-China managed rivalry evolving with these visuals coming in? Or would you argue that this is still a zero-sum competition which is dressed up in diplomatic niceties, as many seem to suggest?
Well, these are latest visuals coming in from Busan in South Korea, where we can see both these top leaders from US and China landing in South Korea for the crucial meeting. We are told that the meeting has apparently begun in a few minutes from now. We'll have pool reporters and, of course, the official staff releasing the photos and videos of the meeting, a very crucial meeting, because remember, this is the first meeting between Trump and Xi since 2019. It's in 2019 when both these leaders had met, and this meeting taking place over the last few months, how the negotiations have taken shape and how on the economic parameters there has been a difficulty, not just between China and US, but all across the globe with the new positioning of the tariffs of Donald Trump administration. So all eyes globally would be on this crucial meeting, because this will pave the way of the economic future of not just between US and China, but also between other countries as well, because this will have repercussions, this will have consequences. Whatever is decided today, whether or not there is an announcement, will have an impact. So in all likelihood, there could be an announcement on a trade deal, because if it wasn't so, then the top two leaders wouldn't have met. So as of now, it's a high stakes meeting taking place in South Korea on the sidelines of the crucial meeting where Trump spoke yesterday. He did say that he is keen on signing a deal with China. One of the crucial elements of this entire exercise is the rare earths that come out from China. Of course, there were export controls also that were levied by Beijing in the last few weeks, in the last couple of weeks, and that seems to be a clincher that led to this kind of a beginning of a situation of a trade deal between US and China. Because remember that China has 70% of the world's rare earths and 90% of the processing of the rare earths. And that's something that is very, very crucial and critical for the United States and cannot be ignored at all. And that's why there seems to be a deep realization within Washington, D.C. That there needs to be an immediate, amicable solution to the trade war between China and US, because it's not just between two countries. There are internal, domestic consequences that this leads to, and there are external consequences as well. These live visuals now on the screens, you can see the flags of United States and China there in Busan in South Korea. And within seconds now, within minutes, both these leaders would be coming in here for the big handshake. It won't be merely a symbolic handshake, because this handshake can lead to a lot. It can lead to a shake-up. It can also lead to prosperity between US and China and several other countries as well. Remember, this comes at a time when India and US are also engaged in diplomatic talks. The Commerce Ministry of both the countries are in touch. There have been multiple rounds of dialogue also for the US-India trade deal. Remember, 50% tariffs have been slapped against India as well, 25% initially, and then an additional 25%. So as of now, a very critical meeting between Trump and Xi Jinping to begin any moment, Parmeshwar, and we will see these visuals that have been cut across live any moment, the big handshake taking place between Trump and Xi.
As always, Aditya, thank you so much for joining us with the latest. Do stay on with us as I get in a word from Daniel Block, who's also currently on NDTV with us. Daniel, tell us, is there a growing understanding in Washington that total economic decoupling from China is neither feasible nor desirable, especially with AI and chip supply chains at stake?
I think within Washington, there's a pretty broad range of perspectives, not just on what is possible with regards to China, but on how far the United States should go. So you have some people here who think that total decoupling is essential and very possible. You have some people here who think that decoupling is a terrible idea and, completely impossible to pull off. And then you have a lot of people in the middle who think that some decoupling is useful, but some isn't. So there's really a wide spectrum. I think what's really unusual about Trump's approach is that it emphasizes commerce above all else. So we're seeing right now, and we recently ran an article in Foreign Affairs, my publication, about this, that it's all kind of commerce first. It's all focused or largely focused on trade deficits, on the purchase and exchange of goods, and kind of divorced from the strategic implications. So he's thinking a lot less than previous US leaders, and frankly, a lot less than almost the entire American foreign policy community, about what any trade deal with China will mean for China's power in relation to the United States. So I think that that's kind of really novel to Trump's approach.
Right, Daniel, do stay on with us. We've seen both Trump and Xi meeting in Busan, live visuals coming in on NDTV at the moment, as the two men are expected to sit down and thrash out an important agenda, a very specific to-do list, in fact, that both men are carrying to Busan and South Korea. Given the Trump-Xi optics, we are, of course, keeping a close eye on how New Delhi will be reading this potential thaw. Whether we can expect any tangible outcomes, that remains a big question. But the optics, as you can see on your screens, playing out with Donald Trump and Xi Jinping meeting in Busan in South Korea. US President Donald Trump heads into a historic meeting with the Chinese leader in a few moments, facing a very delicate test, which is projecting strength against America's top adversary without triggering another economic shock domestically. So that high-stakes encounter, which is actually the first between the two men in more than 6 years, chains. And at a moment when Trump is eager to prove that his economic nationalism can still deliver concrete wins. Ahead of this meeting where Donald Trump and Xi Jinping just met each other, they actually expressed optimism. The tone coming in from the Trump camp this morning was of optimism. The Chinese Foreign Ministry also said that they are not ruling anything out at the moment. But as Laura Westbrook and Priyanka Deo have been taking us through it, there are red lines on both sides, for America and for China as well. Priyanka Deo, in fact, is still with us, and Vishnu Shom also joins us at the moment. Priyanka, given these optics of Donald Trump and Xi Jinping, the US president and Chinese leader meeting, how should India read this potential thaw?
Summit is politically pivotal for Donald Trump. He enters these talks as it's happening right now under domestic and global pressure to show that he can manage great power relations without triggering economic stability. The American business community, farmers, supply chain industries, and markets, they all want clarity. They don't want any escalation. So if Trump can walk away even with an outline of progress, whether it's movement on tariffs, supply chain cooperation, or a structured plan for TikTok's US operations, he gains a credibility boost. It's also a warning sign for Modi and New Delhi because it reinforces that the US and China have sort of de-escalated tensions and frictions, and that to long-term tensions and frictions. So what India doesn't want is stronger US-China ties because India wants to be the partner geopolitically in the Asia-Pacific. But a stalemate, on the other hand, or a hostile outcome, as you said, Parmeshwar, they're meeting after years. This is the first meeting. It does carry a lot of political risk. If markets react negatively, if tariffs look likely to increase, or if the narrative becomes that China stood firm and Trump blinked, that undermines Trump and his deal maker brand, right? And unlike past cycles, US voters today are far more sensitive to supply chain costs, inflation, and global uncertainty. So with media's help, this gives leverage to India. So I think India is waiting and watching to see if the talks are going to be hostile or if they're friendly. If they're friendly, it's probably a warning sign to PM Modi to change strategy, act fast. As Aditya Rajkal said, negotiations with India and the US are still ongoing. India would want to escalate that and try to come to a deal as quickly as possible, possibly before the US and China agree and finalize a trade pact or deal of any kind. So I feel that India is waiting and watching. It puts a lot of pressure on New Delhi, especially if the talks go positively, as both China and the US have signaled on their social media and in media reports.
Right. In fact, Vishnu Shom is with us to decode the optics that are playing out on our screens at the moment. The US president and Chinese leaders shaking hands in South Korea ahead of that big meeting of theirs. Vishnu, decode the optics for us and tell us, does China view Donald Trump as more transactional and therefore easier to deal with than previous US presidents?
The Chinese believe that they are negotiating with the United States from a position of strength, economically, militarily, even diplomatically. I do believe that the Chinese see that, that their conversations with the U.S. president, are, conversations among two peers. So this being the case, let's just listen in to what they're saying at this stage.
Very much. Thank you.
President Trump, it is a great pleasure for me as well to meet you. And it feels very warm seeing you again because it's been many years. Since your re-election, we have spoken on the phone 3 times, exchanged several letters, and stayed in close contact. And our joint guidance, China-US relations have remained stable on the whole. Given our different national conditions, we do not always see eye to eye with each other. And it is normal for the 2 leading economies of the world to have frictions now and then. And in the face of winds, waves, and challenges, you and I, at the helm of China-US relations, should stay the right course and ensure the steady sailing forward of the giant ship of China-US relations. I always believe that China's development goes hand in hand with your vision to make America great again. Our 2 countries are fully able to help each other succeed and prosper together. Over the years, I have stated in public many times that China and the United States should be partners and friends. This is what history has taught us and what reality demands. A few days ago, in the latest round of consultation, our 2 economic and trade teams reached basic consensus on addressing our respective major concerns and made encouraging progress. This provided the necessary conditions for our meeting today. Mr. President, I am ready to continue working with you to build a solid foundation for China-US relations and create a sound atmosphere for the development of both countries. Mr. President, you care a lot about world peace, and you are very enthusiastic about settling various regional hotspot issues. I appreciate your great contribution to the recent conclusion of the Gaza ceasefire agreement. During your visit to Malaysia, you witnessed the signing of the Joint Declaration on Peace along the Cambodia-Thailand border, to which you had provided input. China has been helping in our own way Cambodia and Thailand properly settle their border disputes. And we have also been promoting peace talks to resolve other hotspot issues. The world today is confronted with many tough problems. China and US can jointly shoulder our responsibility as major countries and work together to accomplish more great and concrete things for the good of our two countries and the whole world. I look forward to exchanging views with you on questions important for our two countries and the world.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's great to have you all. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, why did you change your nuclear plans? Why are you going to be doing more nuclear testing?
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let's go. Time to go. I don't know what this is. Right over there. Thank you.
Waves and challenges. But what you just saw was Chinese President Xi Jinping has struck a notably warm and calibrated tone, telling the US President sitting across him on the table, he's told Donald Trump that despite differences, they must stay the right course. Xi Jinping even linked China's growth vision with Donald Trump's Make America Great Again slogan, which is a line that's likely to raise eyebrows. In fact, to quote Xi Jinping, he has said they feel very warm seeing President Trump. It's been many years. He highlighted that they've spoken on the phone 3 times and stayed in close contact. To quote the Chinese side, they have said, our joint guidance, China's relations have remained stable on the whole. We don't always see eye to eye, and that's normal. China has further added, it is normal to have friction now and then in the face of winds, waves, and challenges. Xi Jinping has reiterated that you and I, as in America and China, should stay the right course. Vishnu Shom is with us to decode the latest coming in from both the American and Chinese side. Vishnu, what do you make of these opening remarks?
Well, I think this, as exactly as I was mentioning, is the US President, the Chinese President Xi Jinping talking to the US President, at the same level as a peer in a sense in global affairs. These are the world's 2 most powerful countries, economically and militarily as well. There was reference to the Cambodia-Thailand conflict, which happened recently, and the Chinese president calling for the importance of countries like the United States and China to jointly shoulder responsibilities around the whole world. So in as much as he did congratulate Trump for Trump's efforts at trying to bring about world peace, he did say that, we would like to jointly shoulder responsibilities. China has a huge stake in world peace as well, as what Xi Jinping was mentioning. He gave the example of the Cambodia-Thailand dispute. He referred to America as a partner and as a friend. He wanted to continue working with the United States. He said that it's the right course, and that at the same time, I think Xi was fairly candid when he referred to existing frictions between Beijing and Washington, saying that these frictions were in fact normal, but there needs to be an effort to set the course right, to steady the ship, and that China's vision, as you mentioned, Parameshwar, goes hand in hand with Trump's vision of MAGA, or Make America Great Again. Overall, the relationship Xi has characterized as being stable, and he's welcomed Trump in this meeting, which is taking place between the two leaders face to face after many years. He did say, Xi, and this is significant, that there are often times when we do not see eye to eye, but that frictions are normal. So Xi is being very real and very direct over here, saying that, look, there are differences. It's important for us to work together, to work through those differences, try and see where we can go with this relationship. But there were no specifics, and I presume that's what's going to come up in conversations between the leaders and their delegations on, let's say, trade talks, on TikTok, on many of the other basic issues which we referred to earlier on.
Vishnu, thank you so much for joining us with the latest and decoding the opening remarks for us. We have a crucial reaction from Donald Trump lined up for our viewers. Listen in to what the US president has just said.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great honor to be with a friend of mine, really for a long time now, if you think about it. The very, very distinguished and respected president of China. And we will be having some discussions. I think we've already agreed to a lot of things, and we'll agree to some more right now. But President Xi is a great leader of a great country, and I think we're going to have a fantastic relationship for a long period of time. And it's an honor to have you with us. Thank you very much.
The US president expressing optimism and saying that they are likely to have a long relationship for a long period of time. Priyanka Deo, Aditya Raj Kaul and Daniel Block are still with us to decode the opening remarks and what's expected. Priyanka, when Xi Jinping connects China's development goals with Trump's Make America Great Again slogan, how is this likely to be perceived? Is he trying to flatter Trump, or would you argue he's trying to co-opt the narrative as far as global growth is concerned?
Well, today's talks, as we've just seen from both of the leaders, they're framed around trade, tariffs, technology access controls, rare earth supply chains, TikTok oversight, regional stability. While Taiwan is not the public agenda, it is the strategic backdrop. Whenever the US and China sit down, Taiwan is the silent variable in the room. That's what we need to watch out for. Xi has a long military buildup. It's relevant because the US wants clarity on China's intentions in the Indo-Pacific. There is a 2027 PLA goal and naval expansion. Today's talks will test whether Beijing softens the tone or signals continued assertiveness. There's United Front influence operations. This connects directly to US concerns over TikTok, data, as well as tech leverage, and Taiwan as a core priority. So even if it's not said at the table, which neither leader stated out loud, it shapes just how much trust Washington has in any deal with China. So China is projecting calm and rationality today precisely because it wants global markets steady, it is building hard power concurrently, and it wants time and space to advance its Taiwan strategy. So, for India, this actually adds a layer to how India should read today's diplomacy. If the US-China ties stabilize, China may feel freer to pressure Taiwan or the LAC. If talks stall today, China accelerates military posture and the US intensifies Indo-Pacific ties with India. So today's dialogue is really about tariffs and trade and tech on the surface, but the long-term military ambitions, as Trump said, we've agreed to a lot of things, we're going to agree to some more things. It is basically Taiwan calculations, the context, shaping trust, leverage, and the limits of any breakthrough whatsoever.
Right. Meanwhile, Daniel, weigh in on this. Would you say you just witnessed a tone shift? And would you argue it's a tactical pivot from China, trying to ease Western economic pressure while also maintaining long-term assertiveness?
I think we're seeing some rhetorical warming up right now. But I think that will probably shift with time. Again, I think that because of the commerce first approach that Trump is taking, and I think we see Xi playing into that with some of his remarks and the focus on Make America Great Again, he's really playing right into Trump's vision. We may see some warming in the short term. We might see some sort of deal, and a deal could be valuable. It could be useful. It could mean something both for Americans and for the global economy. But again, I think as time goes on, the structural forces that are pitting these two countries in opposition to each other will rear their heads again. I mean, remember in 2019, Trump and Xi struck a phase one trade deal where China set certain targets for the amount of American products it was going to purchase, certain investments it was going to make in the American economy. In exchange, the United States froze various tariffs, and then China missed those targets, and the United States went back to a more confrontational approach. So while I do think we could see something meaningful come out of this system of engagement, I'm skeptical that we're going to see a real pivot here,
right?
At least in the long term.
All right, cautious optimism remains the key word. Meanwhile, Aditya, should India and other Indo-Pacific democracies be concerned about this soft reset between the two superpowers, considering China's development goals have just been expressed as something going hand in hand with the vision of making America great again?
Well, certainly India will have to watch this very, very closely, and I'm sure that diplomats in New Delhi and elsewhere in Washington, D.C., as well as Beijing, would be watching closely what happens in Busan, South Korea. Because remember, not very long ago at the SCO summit, there was a talk about India-China reset. And it did happen to an extent with the announcement of the direct flight between Beijing and New Delhi, Beijing and Mumbai. And of course, some other confidence-building measures between India and China. But let's remember that there's been a trust deficit, not just between India and China, but there's been a trust deficit between US and China to a great extent. Also, on the same line, on the same breath, there has been a delay in the Quad meeting. Let's remember that the Quad meeting was to happen between October and November in 2025, and India had to host it. India had to host it last year. That was delayed because at that time Biden had requested India to host this summit, and thereafter we are not sure whether India would be hosting the Quad summit. We're not sure if Trump would be visiting India. It's almost clear that Trump will not be visiting India, and the Quad meeting may not happen. So the high stakes meeting between China and US, between Trump and Xi Jinping, is very critical. Of course, from the body language and the tone and tonality of the opening remarks, it's almost clear that there has been some kind of a resolution, that there has been some amicable settlements on not all parameters, but some initial understanding on some basic principles. And that's what is clear, because Trump made very few remarks. He was usually he's very kind with his words. But in this opening remarks with the Chinese president, it was very brief. It does seem that they will do the talking perhaps later after this bilateral meeting and have some kind of an announcement that could have an impact on the global economy, because any kind of a positive deal could lead to some kind of a stability, some kind of a positive impact on the global economy. So all countries would be watching this very, very closely, of all India, because this impacts India. India has been a strategic partner of the United States for a very long time, for decades together. And the last 6 to 8 months have been critical because there's been a complete shift by the US administration on this level of the economic understanding of how things have been. There's been a 50% tariff that has been levied against India. And while there has been some, bonhomie that's been visible on the phone calls front between Trump and Modi, but whatever happens today will have an impact on the India-US economic relationship as well. Perhaps a deal that could be signed by next month.
Right, so a high-stakes meeting that is taking place in South Korea. Thank you so much, Aditya, for breaking it down for us. And during that handshake, what is it that Donald Trump had to say? Let's listen in.
He's a very tough negotiator. That's not good. We know each other well.
Mr. President, do you plan to sign a trade deal today?
Could be. I think we'll have a great understanding. We have a great relationship. We've always had a great relationship.
Right, and that is the meeting that's taking place in South Korea. We do have Aditya with us and Priyanka as well as Daniel. Thank you so much for being with us. And let's just, get in Priyanka at this moment. Priyanka, of course, this high-stakes meeting that's taking place. Take us to what all is on the agenda and how is this going to be impacting the rest of the world?
Well, today's talks in Busan are framed around trade and tariffs, technology access and controls, rare earth supply chains, TikTok oversight, supply chain security, regional stability. While Taiwan is not on the public agenda, it is the strategic backdrop. I feel that the tone from both leaders is warm and optimistic, and that messaging matters. Trump is emphasizing personal rapport and projecting progress, even if the details are still still emerging and will continue to emerge. This tracks with the U.S. strategy heading into the meeting, which is basically keep leverage, avoid escalation, and show the world that this engagement can be productive without compromising American interests. But beneath these friendly optics, the strategic reality hasn't shifted at all. This is a competition that both sides want to manage and not escalate. China has also framed the friction as normal. They said right before during the opening talks that while we have not seen eye to eye, so they have framed and acknowledged that this friction is normal. Trump is underscoring cooperation, if you can say, but both leaders remain acutely aware of the rivalry that they have in trade, technology, as well as influence. So where does that leave all of us, right? If today produces a framework rather than a full deal, Trump can still signal momentum, pointing to alignment on key principles and continued negotiation. That's why he just said, we could sign a trade deal today. For Beijing, appearing constructive serves a dual purpose, calming markets while continuing its long-term ambitions, especially with Taiwan. So the takeaway, personal warmth is part of this diplomatic choreography here, but the hard issues like tariffs, tech controls, rare earth access, and power competition in the Indo-Pacific will take more than just handshakes and a 1 or 2 hour meeting to resolve, if it even takes that much time. So the moment is less about declaring victory and more about shaping the next phase of US-China engagement and the world, and this includes India, which will be watching closely to see whether the cooperative tone today translates into real progress in the near future, especially relevant for India since US-India trade talks are still ongoing.
Right, of course, Priyanka, thank you for breaking it down for us. Daniel with us as well. Daniel, what does the US have to lose if talks don't really go through? We know that there's a lot on the table and, of course, a lot to lose for both sides.
Well, I think the biggest concern that the United States has, certainly the most immediate, is that it will lose access to critical minerals. So China is responsible for processing and I think outright producing a vast majority of the world's rare earth minerals. And that's really the point of leverage that they exercised that got Trump to back off some of the high tariffs that he had placed on China and Chinese exports. So I think that's the biggest concern, is the United States doesn't want to lose access to that. I think in addition to that, there's, many of the things that we've been discussing. There's concerns about escalation and the risk of conflict, particularly over Taiwan. I think all things being equal, Washington wants to have tensions lower in that regard. And then I think there's also an element of Trump's ego at stake, right? Trump really wants to have big diplomatic breakthroughs. He wants his Nobel Peace Prize. He wants to show that he can solve the world's problems. And I think for him personally, he feels his reputation to some extent is on the line here. So I think those are kind of the main things that Trump specifically, and then Washington more generally, are looking out for here.
Right, absolutely. Also, Aditya with us. Aditya, of course, when we speak about the body language and the way the two leaders just met, the handshake and what, President Trump really had to say, how optimistic are we of, the kind of announcements that we're expecting post this meeting?
Well, we are pretty damn sure that there would be some kind of an announcement, really, because if you closely observe the body language or the brief words of Donald Trump, it's almost clear that he's impatient, and it almost feels that he knows that something is in the offing and he wants to get done with it. So he was optimistic. And he was looking forward to perhaps sign a deal, because when he was speaking to the pool reporters earlier as well, he did show some kind of a positive approach and positive, optimistic approach of the US administration. So as of now, it is clear that there has been some amicable resolution, at least on some aspects. And that's why the top leadership has met. Both of them also said that their respective diplomats had met earlier, and there has been some kind of an understanding that has been reached. So what is this understanding? How will this play out really will be known perhaps in the next few hours. But what has been a game changer and a clincher really is the export controls that were announced by China on the rare earths just a week or a couple of weeks ago. And that is very critical, because let's remember that 70% of the rare earths across the globe are produced by China, and 90% of the processing of the rare earths is also done by China. So rare earths are very critical to the US industry, be it manufacturing of cars or several other equipments as well that are manufactured to a great extent in US. So it does seem like that some of the advisors of Donald Trump have told him that rare earths are critical and we need to urgently resolve this crisis, at least to some level, with China. And this kind of an economic tariff war with China is not going to help domestically the US administration. And that's why we've seen a turnaround of things in the last couple of weeks or 3 weeks. And Trump had to come for this Asia visit and now meet Xi Jinping here on the sidelines of the meeting in South Korea. So I think it's a very critical meeting. This also comes at a time, you asked me about how India is monitoring this very closely. India, of course, will be watching very, very closely from its embassies, not just in DC and Beijing, but also from headquarters here in New Delhi and from Seoul as well. So I think India and US trade talks are also at a very critical juncture. I think there are, I wouldn't say misunderstandings, but on several aspects.
Sorry to interrupt you here, just stay on. Let's listen in to what Donald Trump had to say.
But he's a very tough negotiator. That's not good. We know each other well.
Mr. President, do you plan to sign a trade deal today?
Could be. I think we'll have a great understanding.
President Trump, it is a great pleasure for me as well to meet you. And it feels very warm seeing you again because it's been many years. Since your re-election, we have spoken on the phone 3 times, exchanged several letters, and stayed in close contact. And our joint guidance, China-US relations have remained stable on the whole. Given our different national conditions, we do not always see eye to eye with each other. And it is normal for the 2 leading economies of the world to have frictions now and then. And in the face of winds, waves, and challenges, you and I, at the helm of China-US relations, should stay the right course and ensure the steady sailing forward of the giant ship of China-US relations. I always believe that China's development goes hand in hand with your vision to make America great again.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great honor to be with a friend of mine, really for a long time now, if you think about it. The very, very distinguished and respected President of China. And we will be having some discussions. I think we've already agreed to a lot of things, and we'll agree to some more right now. But President Xi is a great leader of a great country, and I think we're going to have a fantastic relationship for a long period of time. And it's an honor to have you with us. Thank you very much.
Right, Priyanka Deo with us. Priyanka, of course, Xi Jinping has been saying that history has taught us that, the United States and China need to be friends going forward. And that is really the message that has been put out in bold letters. And as the meeting there, you see the smiles, the optimism, the handshake, and of course, what really has been said by Trump and Xi Jinping just before the meeting, and how, Trump is referring to them as G2.
Well, moments ago, we heard more from Donald Trump in Busan, who said of Xi that he is a tough negotiator. That's not good. And we know each other well. Trump added that this meeting could be to sign a trade deal and express confidence that we will have a great understanding and a great relationship. So Trump's language is actually doing 2 things at once if you break it down. He's acknowledging Xi's toughness, signaling to U.S. audiences that he's not walking into this casually, while simultaneously projecting personal confidence and momentum. And this is, of course, classic Trump diplomacy. Sharpen the rivalry, then frame himself as the leader who can manage it through personal chemistry as well as strength. The key line of what Trump said is that a deal could be signed. That keeps the door open without overcommitting, and it also keeps markets and allies watching very, very closely. He's trying to set an expectation of progress without guaranteeing a final breakthrough today. But remember that there is toughness behind the smiles. Xi is also projecting stability and long-term resolve. Both leaders want to appear in command. Both want the optics of cooperation, and both are still competing for strategic advantage. So while warmth in tone is notable, the substance that follows will be what matters, particularly on tariffs, technology access, rare earth supply chains, and any language tied to regional stability. For India and for U.S. allies, the question now is whether today produces real structure and commitments or a diplomatic photo moment before the harder work resumes. Either way, the signals from both sides make it clear that engagement is back, but rivalry isn't going anywhere. So we'll see what happens.
Or permanent enemies, as they say, particularly in politics, because he's referring to, of course, Xi Jinping as his friend, somebody that he's been wanting to meet for a very long time. And that is something that Donald Trump said before the meeting as well, saying that they've agreed on a lot of things as far as the Chinese officials are concerned, even before the meeting. Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, I put relatively little stock in Trump saying things like, this person is a big friend of mine, we get along well, they're tough negotiators, but that's a bad thing. I mean, one thing that comes to mind as I hear Trump say that is he said very similar things about Modi, right? He referred to Modi, he said the prime minister is a great friend of mine. He also said that India is a very tough negotiator, but that's not a good thing. I think the exact words he used were India, very tough, very, very tough. So it's really hard to say what way that's going to go. Sometimes Trump's affinity for strong leaders and for toughness means that countries get a good deal, or they get at least a more favorable deal than they would have gotten under a different presidential administration. But sometimes, like in the case of India, it leads to very tough stances, to high tariffs, to a very aggressive posture. So yeah, so by itself, I mean, I think that could really go either way, but I'm really struck by some of the similarities there to things that Trump has said about Modi and about India.
After referring to, Prime Minister Modi as his good friend, now, of course, he's calling Xi Jinping his good friend. And this is after the on again, off again tariff war that we have been seeing. We have breaking news coming in with Trump signaling a trade deal that is imminent. Now, that deal could be signed today is what Donald Trump is saying. And that means that, the talks are going as per schedule, as per plan. And this is Donald Trump there signaling a trade deal that is imminent, that could be signed today itself. So a huge announcement that is expected. Could that trade deal be signed? Of course, Priyanka joining us. And Priyanka, break it down for us, because this past few months that we have seen Donald Trump take up those tariffs almost to 100%. And that is something, basically when we talk about commodities in the United States, how much is the United States dependent on goods coming out of China? And that really is the big question.
Well, Donald Trump is now signaling that a trade deal with China is imminent, and it's a strong indication that today's meeting is moving very well beyond symbolic diplomacy here. Trump has repeatedly emphasized his personal chemistry with Xi Jinping, calling him a tough negotiator, but stressing that the two leaders know each other well and have reached an agreement on key elements. And this also suggests meaningful progress behind closed doors, not just at today's meeting. So if that agreement is formalized today, it will mark a significant momentum in U.S.-China relations. And it also signals a thaw in economic tensions and potentially easing pressure on global trade flows, technology supply chains, and markets. But, in terms of U.S. dependence, in 2024, U.S. goods import from China were about $438 billion, and U.S. total trade, which is goods and services with China, was about $658 billion. So Chinese goods make up a significant portion of the U.S. total goods imports, about 13.5 or 14%. The U.S. share of imports from China has been falling, though, with that being said, from a peak of about 22% in 2017 to 13.9% in 2023. And it's in critical sectors like communications and IT. Dependence remains higher. U.S. imports of communication-related goods from China were around 44% in 2023. There's also hidden dependence here. U.S. imports from other countries that still use Chinese inputs or components. So it's not directly what the U.S. takes from China. It's also what China supplies and imports to other countries that the U.S. needs. So the U.S. cannot simply assume that it's fully self-sufficient or that replacing China overnight is feasible here. The decoupling process is ongoing and partial. Because China retains significant upstream control, especially in electronics, rare earth processing, intermediate goods, the U.S. remains vulnerable to disruptions, even if the import share drops. This explains why trade and tech talks with China are so intense and important today. The U.S. wants to reduce both the volume and the strategic risk of dependence. And for allied countries like India, this dynamic presents an opportunity. If U.S. firms diversify away from China, India could position itself as a trusted alternative. But it also means that India must ensure its own dependencies are managed, or it could become a new risk node for India as well. So bottom line, the U.S. remains significantly dependent on China in many goods and supply chain areas, but the dependency is moderating. The key question now is not just how much trade the U.S. does with China, but how much strategic leverage and control China retains in the value chain and critical inputs domains.
Well, let's get in Daniel here. Daniel, of course, we do know trade tariffs, trafficking of fentanyl, a drug responsible for tens of thousands of deaths in the United States each year. We also have, when we talk about the soybean export, we also talk about, Priyanka mentioned semiconductors, of course, all of that. Technology is playing a big part of this meeting as well. But who, in your opinion, would you say has the upper hand here?
I think neither country has the upper hand. And I know that may be a little bit of a cop-out, but I really think it's true. Both of these states have points of leverage that are really valuable and powerful. As you just noted, on the China side, there's the processing and production of rare earth minerals. There's also the exporting of fentanyl precursors. These are large concerns and problems for the United States in their own ways. But the United States still has the world's most advanced chips. Its allies produce some of the world's most advanced chip equipment in terms of making and production of chips. And the United States is an enormous market for Chinese goods. So I think both of these countries and both of these governments have real points of leverage. And I think that's actually probably one of the reasons why Trump has backed off a little bit from tariffs when it comes to China. It's because this is a country where the American economy is much more evenly matched than it is with some of the other countries where he's been slapping and firing tariffs on. So I think it's really hard to say what that means in terms of where the negotiations are going to go. I'm not entirely sure. My guess is we will see some sort of partial deal, as both these countries recognize that there is still something to be gained from the two having commerce with each other. But again, I think the structural forces that are pitting them in competition are very powerful. And so I'm skeptical of kind of a major breakthrough in the long term.
Right. Priyanka, how strong are their negotiating, positions when we talk about the power between the two leaders? And of course, we do know that Trump always wants his way, but he has to offer a lot more this time around. And it's going to be very different from the meetings that he's had in the past, say, with Prime Minister Modi or with Putin or with, say, the Ukrainian leader as well.
Well, Trump always wants his way, but let's not forget Xi always wants his way too. And he does a lot of underhanded things that nobody in the world likes. But I think, unlike Daniel, I'm going to take a stand here. In the immediate moment, I'm going to say that the United States does have the upper hand, particularly heading into these talks. And why I say that is, number one, economic pressure. The U.S. economy is slowing, but it is far more resilient than China's today, which is facing a real estate crisis. It's facing facing youth unemployment, capital flight, slowing exports. So Beijing needs market confidence and stability more urgently than the United States does. Number two is the tech chokehold. America controls the global semiconductor ecosystem, design, architecture, cutting-edge fabrication tools. China cannot leapfrog this in the short term. Washington's export controls remain one of the most powerful economic levers in the world. Number three is strategic coalitions. The U.S. has a strong alliance network. Japan, South Korea, where the talks are being held, the EU, Australia, and India via the Quad. China has economic partners, but not deep strategic allies. So diplomatically, the U.S. has a broader support base and greater ability to build pressure coalitions. And four, of course, is the narrative advantage. In global diplomacy, China wants to appear stable, rational, and open, especially as Xi pursues long-term goals. Trump is projecting warmth and optimism, but Trump projecting that here is very strategic because it puts Beijing on the back foot publicly if talks stall. So where China holds counter leverage to, that also isn't trivial. We have to look at that as well. China, where they take favor is China controls key inputs like rare earths, huge manufacturing base, can't forget about that. It can move quickly without political friction. It has military momentum in its region, long-term strategic patience as well. Xi's ambitions are very clear and timeline driven. That informs China's negotiating posture. But for today, I would say that China still needs more stability at way more than the U.S. does. So in this moment, the strategic and economic leverage, I would say, leans towards Washington. But this, as Daniel said, is not a one-sided equation. China plays the long-term game, and today's cooperation sits atop I would say, deep and enduring rivalry. Both know what's at stake, and neither wants to look like they walked away weaker.
Right, and of course, referring to him as a great leader of a great country, while Trump was, praising Xi Jinping, Daniel, but he's also, when we talk about Xi Jinping, has also gone on to say that they don't see eye to eye on many things, and that's been in the past. However, moving forward, they really need to be friends and partners. That is something that he stressed upon. That is the place that Xi Jinping is coming from, and that, he's gone on to stress that history has taught us that what reality really demands. Do you feel in these times technology could be a unifying factor here?
Well, first, I want to say I think that's totally fair by Priyanka, and I would agree relative power of the two states. The United States does have the upper hand. The reason I think it's a little bit less lopsided in this particular negotiation is simply because I think Trump is so concerned with commerce itself and less with the broader strategic implications. Now, when it comes to whether or not technology can be a unifying force here, I think that's what you said, technology. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm a little bit skeptical simply because I think that this is one of the fundamental issues, that the United States' power advantage comes from the fact that it has access to technologies that China does not. Now, it's possible that Xi will be able to play into Trump's desire to have some sort of splashy trade agreement to lessen the trade deficit in order to get some of the chips that he wants in order to reduce export controls, and that in that sense it can serve as a kind of unifying factor. But again, I really do think that the United States' strategic community beyond Trump, if you go to the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who's also the National Security Advisor, they really want the United States to maintain its technological edge. And I think that's going to be a really hard line for China to ultimately cross, no matter what kind of good noises we see come out of, the subsequent days.
Right. Priyanka, when we talk about, this very crucial meeting that's taking place in South Korea right now, how concerned should India be? And, given the fact that Prime Minister Modi has always spoken about his relationship with Donald Trump, but here we have Donald Trump talking about another good friend of his, somebody that he hasn't met in 6 years. This is the first time he's meeting ever since he returned to office, and the first since 2019.
India shouldn't be alarmed by this meeting, but it should be alert and strategic. If today's meeting produces a more cooperative U.S.-China tone, India loses some of the geopolitical advantage that it has that came when Washington leaned extra hard toward New Delhi as a counterweight to China. So a thaw between the world's two biggest powers always compresses diplomatic space for countries like India, which are also in that space. But this is not, I would say, a reset of strategic competition. It's sort of a tactical cooling off period. The US-China rivalry isn't going anywhere. Both leaders have made that clear. Supply chain diversification, technology security, the Indo-Pacific strategy, these remain in motion, and India remains central to all of them. So for India, this moment is about positioning, not panic, so to say. What India should do now is accelerate the India-US trade track. Don't wait for the US to focus. Don't wait for the US focus to shift. It should also reinforce its value as a trusted manufacturing and tech partner. It should continue strengthening defense and maritime partnerships via the Quad, the Indian Ocean, the Indo-Pacific. India should also stay vigilant on China's military posture, especially along the LAC and in the Indian Ocean. And it should also bolster semiconductor, AI, and supply chain policy to lock into long-term relevance. So India shouldn't see today as a setback, but it should see it definitely as a signal to move faster, especially since both leaders are carrying this warm and friendly tone. Because a US-China handshake doesn't change the long-term power equation, and India's role still remains critical. So the smart response is confidence, not concern, backed by speed and strategy, especially on the US-India trade deal.
Xi Jinping mentioned that it's okay to have friction once in a while, every now and then, and that is how he's describing this. And of course, saying that it feels very warm because we're meeting after so long. That is exactly what Xi Jinping has gone on to say. Daniel, take us through, of course, a lot riding, a lot on the agenda. It's a very high-stake meeting that's taking place. A lot, particularly when it comes to people importing stuff out of China into the United States, because there has been a lot of businesses that have been impacted in the United States. How hopeful should they be with this meeting and the outcome that, perhaps is expected?
I would say in the short term, they should be, let's say, slightly optimistic. I think that, like I said, the odds of some kind of trade deal or extended trade truce coming out of this meeting or whatever subsequent summit takes place are relatively high. And I think that plays into some of the domestic political calculations here that we've been talking about, which is that, there's a midterm election coming up in the United States. Trump wants his party to do well. There are plenty of Republicans and swing voters who rely on Chinese. Almost everybody in the United States probably uses some product that was made in China. And there are plenty of small business owners in the United States who rely on Chinese products for their imports. So there are political incentives for Trump to come up with some sort of tariff relief for China. But that's in the short term. In the long term, I do think we're going to continue moving toward decoupling. And so if I were an American business owner or an American, kind of consumer, I suppose I am an American consumer, I wouldn't be looking at this and thinking, okay, we're going to reset the US-China relationship. We're going to go back to how it was in the 2000s or the 1990s or even much of the 2010s, where there's a lot of commerce between the two countries that's reducing inflation. I don't think we're going back to that world. I think some short-term relief, yes. Long-term relief, a long-term change in trajectory, no.
Right, Daniel, of course, thank you so much, Daniel, for being with us. Stay with us. We're just, slipping into a short break on the other side to stay with us.
Election season is here again. The battle for Bihar begins.
नीतीश जी का बिहार चलाने योग्य नहीं।
बिहार जैसे राज्य में इतना भरोसा लोगों ने किया।
India's #1 network locked and loaded. The OG of election reporting.
ये सवाल पूछे जाते हैं कि फलाना जाति की क्या आबादी है। सरकार के पास जरूर ये आंकड़े होने चाहिए।
Elections in our DNA. In the heart of every voter.
वोट चोरी मुद्दा है भी और नहीं भी है।
NDTV 24/7, India's election engine.
What seems settled for me is unfinished business. So I rewind, I pause, I reflect, I dig until what's buried stands up to be counted. Breaking ground, not just headlines, the meaning behind them. This is Breaking Ground with me, Vedika Sood.
The front lines of Kargil. The fury of Operation Sindhu.
So many attacks.
The chaos and cries of disaster zones. To fighter jet cockpits. And the world's most defining interviews.
It's incredible.
He has seen history break. Live. Unfiltered. 20,000 hours of live broadcasting.
Welcome to Left, Right and Centre.
Hard facts.
War-struck country.
Hard questions.
In the Ukraine.
30 years of trust.
In the Kargil area. North Ukraine. In France, in Italy. At Srinagar. Vishnu Shom for NDTV.
Vishnu Shom. Only on NDTV.
Pulling us into this country.
They argue, I conclude. They deflect, I drill down. This isn't a free-for-all. It's a reckoning. No filler, no fog. Only the facts and where they lead. Every night at 9, the case closes because the buck stops here.
The best app to use is the NDTV app.
दुनिया भर में जब भी भारतीय मीडिया की चर्चा होती है तो एनडीटीवी सबसे पहले जिक्र में आता है।
मैं आपका बात से सहमत हूं, उल्टे हम भी जब विदेश जाते हैं, the best app to use is the NDTV app.
Across the country, he has tracked the pulse of power from Washington.
Motorola Edge 60 Pro, most stunning true color pro grade camera. Motorola Edge 60 Pro, the true flagship killer.
Welcome back. Let's get you breaking news coming in from Bengaluru in Karnataka. Another road rage incident has now been reported. A man and a woman have been arrested on charges of killing a 24-year-old delivery boy in this road rage incident that took place in the JP Nagar area on the 25th of this month. Well, there is a man who has lost his life, this 24-year-old delivery boy, while his friend who was also injured because he was also on the bike. The bike was rammed by a car in what police have now confirmed to be a deliberate act of murder. Deepak, my colleague, joining us from Bengaluru. Deepak, take us through the details. We have CCTV footage there of the car on purpose ramming into the bike, as we can see, and that is the claim that is being made by the police.
Well, the CCTV, of course, has revealed the truth in this case. Now, this was a very well-planned incident, quite shocking as well. This was a gig worker who was not on duty on the day of this incident. He was traveling along with his friend. Now, the information that we have from the police is that the bike touched the car's rear view mirror and then managed to, but angered and furious that the car's rear view mirror was damaged, he began to chase the accused here in this particular case, who's a martial arts teacher. He teaches Kalaripattu. He hails from Kerala. He began to chase the biker, eventually going into a subarterial road, and you can see the car speeding and then ramming into the bike. Now, the biker in this particular case collapses. It's said that he died on the spot. The person who was pillion was injured. You can see him get up after the accident, try to look for help at that point in time. Now, what is even more shocking is the fact here that after a while, after they commit this crime, they come back to the spot to clean up and erase evidence. They try to pick up pieces of the car so that there is no evidence left behind. Now, all of this was captured on CCTV. Probably they were unaware that there was a camera that was capturing everything. Now, both of them at this point in time have been arrested. Now, as I mentioned, the person who was driving the car here hails from Kerala. He has, been arrested along with his wife, who hails from Jammu and Kashmir.
Right. Deepak, thank you for getting us those details. This incident that took place at night on the 25th of October at 11:30 p.m. when this man, this is the couple that Deepak was mentioning, Manoj Kumar behind the wheels and his wife Aarti Sharma, who have now been arrested by the police. What really began as a minor brush between a bike and a car's mirror, the side view mirror, escalated into a deadly chase. In a fit of rage, the couple allegedly followed the bikers for nearly 2 kilometers before ramming their vehicle into them. The impact threw both the riders off the road, leaving them gravely injured. While it was Varun who survived, but Darshan, the 24-year-old delivery boy, who succumbed to his injuries during treatment. More breaking news coming in, and this is a hit-and-run case that is being reported now from the state of Gujarat. 2 people have been arrested, including the car driver, after the bike that was dragged for 1.5 kilometers. Now, this is a horrific hit-and-run incident that has occurred in Gujarat on the National Highway 48, which passes through, this is a very crucial, very important highway. A car driver hit a biker and dragged him for approximately 1.5 kilometers, a scene that is so horrifying. The police have managed to arrest the drunk driver, a teacher, and his brother, who was also drunk, and have initiated an investigation. According to information that's coming about at the moment, after the accident, the car driver continued to drag the bike and its driver at full speed on that very important highway. Another driver captured the entire incident on his mobile phone, which has now gone completely viral, and passers-by stopped the car driver and informed the police, and it's the police that managed to detain the drunk driver, like I mentioned, along with his brother. The drunk driver was a teacher who seized, now the police have managed to seize the car and brought him and the car also to the police station, is what has happened in the case so far. So it was 2 people who were riding a motorcycle were injured in the incident. This included a 50-year-old and a 21-year-old who were seriously injured in the process. They have been taken to the hospital, and that is the latest that we have for you of this hit-and-run case that has taken place in Gujarat. And with that, we're slipping into a short break. Back with a whole lot more on the other side. Do stay with us.
Motorola Edge 60 Pro, most stunning true color pro grade camera. Motorola Edge 60 Pro, the true flagship killer.
Modi will be holding 2 rallies to hold 2 public meetings that are going to be taking place in Muzaffarpur and Chhapra. And while kicking off the Bihar poll campaigning in the state of Bihar, it was Rahul Gandhi, who launched a scathing attack on Prime Minister Modi, alleging that he would even dance on stage for votes. Now, that is something that the BJP is attacking Rahul Gandhi for, saying he's insulted the Prime Minister. And it is the first major tri-service war game since Operation Sindoor and is aimed at testing and validating lessons learned from that operation. We're talking about India's exercise Trishul taking place from today. And it's the TMC versus the BJP. This is a war of words that has erupted all over again in the state of Bengal over the SIR. The TMC is accusing the BJP and the Election Commission of spreading fear, while it is the BJP saying that the Mamata Banerjee government is provoking people.
मजे को दुगुना करना है, मजे को 3 गुना करना है। गाजी, रोहन, come on side.
The battle for Bihar is on. Bihar on a turning pitch, or captain stays the same. NDTV hosts the biggest pre-poll event. Bihar's warriors, challengers and biggest faces live. NDTV Power Play Bihar. Unmissable in Patna, November 1st.
We unveil NDTV Golf Pro-Am, India's #1 golf Pro-Am, the Course of Champions, the conversation of leaders.
What a stellar lineup we have here on the stage of the NDTV World Summit to announce the launch of the NDTV Pro-Am. Arguably India's greatest cricketer, one of India's most distinguished bureaucrats, a top international golfer and also a top Indian pro at the moment. One administrator who's doing more to lift the profile of Indian golf than anyone has in the recent years.
All the top champions, the Tiger Woods, will all come from India in future.
It's great to be here. Golf is growing across the globe and here in India as well.
Whereas now the opportunities are increasing a lot.
Thank you very much. You're starting golf. We want to thank you.
That's very sweet of you. Thank you.
I think that's very, very important.
When it comes to elections, I am a journalist, analyst, commentator, and an advisor.
My point of view is not for the faint-hearted.
Nothing escapes my eyes. Not the leaders, not their agendas, not even the real game of elections. हम सबको खबर देते हैं, हम सबकी खबर लेते हैं। चुनावों की भी, दावों की भी। बिहार की सोच, बिहार का फैसला। पत्रकारिता का जो पहलू दिखता नहीं, वो हम दिखाते हैं। इलेक्शंस की सारी खबरें मेरे साथ।
Watch me cover the Bihar battleground on NDTV 24/7.
In Bihar, bahut politics hai. The year's election super final. Can Jai Viru storm the palace? Or will Bihar double engine defend? Fierce fight, electric election. Biggest team, biggest coverage. Battleground Bihar on NDTV 24/7.
The most coveted invitation in the Indian corporate golf calendar, where top corporates go head-to-head with the finest professional golfers. An exclusive circuit across multiple cities, aspirational, unforgettable. NDTV Golf Pro-Am, India's #1 golf Pro-Am is here. The course of champions, the conversation of leaders. NDTV Golf Pro-Am, coming soon, stay tuned.
Election season is here again. The battle for Bihar begins.
नीतीश जी का बिहार चलाने योग्य नहीं।
बिहार जैसे राज्य में इतना भरोसा लोगों ने किया।
India's #1 network locked and loaded. The OG of election reporting.
ये सवाल पूछे जाते हैं कि फलाना जाति की क्या आबादी है। सरकार के पास जरूर ये आंकड़े होने चाहिए।
Elections in our DNA. In the heart of every voter.
वोट चोरी मुद्दा है भी और नहीं भी है।
NDTV 24/7, India's election engine.
What seems settled for me is unfinished business. So I rewind. I pause. I reflect. I dig until what's buried stands up to be counted. Breaking ground, not just headlines, the meaning behind them. This is Breaking Ground with me, Vedika Sood.
The front lines of Kargil. The fury of Operation Sindhu.
So many attacks.
The chaos and cries of disaster zones. To fighter jet cockpits. And the world's most defining interviews.
It's incredible.
He has seen history break. Live, unfiltered. 20,000 hours of live broadcasting.
Welcome to Left, Right and Center.
Hard facts.
War-struck country.
Hard questions.
In the Ukraine.
30 years of trust.
In the Kargil area. North Ukraine and France in Italy. At Srinagar. Vishnu Shom for NDTV.
Vishnu Shom. Only on NDTV.
Pulling us into this country.
They argue, I conclude. They deflect, I drill down. Stop. Breaking news coming in from Australia. This is the India ODI vice captain Shreyas Iyer, who's reportedly been ruled out of action for another 2 months after suffering that ruptured spleen during the third ODI against Australia last week. We have Rika Roy, my colleague, joining us. Rika, we believe he's stable, his condition is improving, but from what we're hearing now is that he is going to be out of action as far as cricket is concerned for the next 2 months.
That's right. As news emerges, we have got to know that Shreyas Iyer had to undergo a medical procedure to stop internal bleeding, but his condition is stable right now. According to the latest reports, he's been moved out of the ICU in Sydney Hospital. That had happened earlier this week, and even though his condition is stable, it will take some time for him to recover, and reports are that he's going to be out of action, out of cricket for at least 2 months, and that means that he won't be playing the ODIs versus South Africa. He might not make it for the ODIs versus New Zealand either, which means that since India doesn't have any ODIs until July after their January fixture, he will have to wait until July next year for a return. As of now, the doctors are monitoring him, and it's pretty much a call they are going to take day by day.
Right, of course, this implies that he is unlikely to be able also what does this really mean as far as the T20 World Cup is concerned?
Well, he wasn't really in India's T20 scheme of things. So even if he was fine, unlikely he would have featured in the World Cup. He wouldn't be playing, we can confirm to our viewers that he wouldn't be playing the T20 World Cup. But yes, his ODI future now will have to be assessed. He had earlier written to BCCI saying that because of back situation, he wanted to take a break from red ball cricket, which means he's not playing test cricket for now. He wanted to concentrate on white ball cricket, and that leaves him with 2 formats, ODIs and T20s. Since he's not in India's T20 scheme of things, he is only limited to ODIs. But for the ODIs to happen and for him to come back to the team, it may take a while now.
Right, if he is to miss the ODI series against New Zealand, his next campaign could perhaps take place in July next year, Rika, as far as the white ball tour of England is concerned. Thank you so much for joining us with those details. With that, we're slipping into a short break. Back with a whole lot more on the other side. Thank you so much for watching.
The best app to use is the NDTV app.
दुनिया भर में जब भी भारतीय मीडिया की चर्चा होती है तो एनडीटीवी सबसे पहले जिक्र में आता है।
मैं आपका बात से सहमत हूं, उल्टे हम भी जब विदेश जाते हैं, the best app to use is the NDTV app.
He has tracked the pulse of power, from Washington to Korea. Witnessed history being made in global capitals and conflict zones. Brought clarity to complex issues of national security and international affairs. And now, Aditya Rajkol begins a new chapter at NDTV.
Actually, I'm taking off because the stories I cover don't sit still. To bring the world to India and to take India to the world, I need to be where
the true flagship killer.
The battle for Bihar is on. Bihar on a turning pitch, or captain stays the same. NDTV hosts the biggest pre-poll event. Bihar's warriors, challengers and biggest faces live. NDTV Power Play Bihar. Unmissable in Patna, November 1st.
We unveil NDTV Golf Pro-Am, India's #1 golf Pro-Am, the course of champions, the conversation of leaders.
What a stellar lineup we have here on the stage of the NDTV World Summit to announce the launch of the NDTV Pro-Am. Arguably India's greatest cricketer, one of India's most distinguished bureaucrats, a top international golfer and also a top Indian pro at the moment. One administrator who's doing more to lift the profile of Indian golf than anyone has in the recent years.
All the top champions, the Tiger Woods, will all come from India in future.
It's great to be here. Golf is growing across the globe and here in India as well.
Whereas now the opportunities are increasing a lot.
Thank you very much. You're starting golf. We want to thank you.
That's very sweet of you. Thank you.
I think that's very, very important.
When it comes to elections, I am a journalist, analyst, commentator, and an advisor.
My point of view is not for the faint-hearted.
Nothing escapes my eyes. Not the leaders, not their agendas, not even the real game of elections.
हम सबको खबर देते हैं, हम सबकी खबर लेते हैं, चुनावों की भी, दावों की भी। बिहार की सोच, बिहार का फैसला।
पत्रकारिता का जो पहलू दिखता नहीं, वो हम दिखाते हैं।
इलेक्शंस की सारी खबरें मेरे साथ।
Watch me cover the Bihar battleground on NDTV 24/7.
In Bihar, bahut politics hai. The year's election super final. Can Jai Viru storm the palace? Or will Bihar double engine defend? Fierce fight, electric election. Biggest team, biggest coverage. Battleground Bihar on NDTV 24/7.
The most coveted invitation in the Indian corporate golf calendar, where top corporates go head-to-head with the finest professional golfers. An exclusive circuit across multiple cities, aspirational, unforgettable. NDTV Golf Pro-Am, India's #1 golf Pro-Am, is here. The course of champions, the conversation of leaders. NDTV Golf Pro-Am, coming soon, stay tuned.
Election season is here again. The battle for Bihar begins.
नीतीश जी का बिहार चलाने योग्य नहीं।
बिहार जैसे राज्य में
इतना भरोसा लोगों ने किया।
India's #1 network locked and loaded. The OG of election reporting.
ये सवाल पूछे जाते हैं कि फलाना जाति की क्या आबादी है। सरकार के पास जरूर ये आंकड़े होने चाहिए।
Elections in our DNA. In the heart.
It's 9 a.m. and you are watching NDTV's Breakfast Bulletin. I am Parmeshwar Bava. We've got an action-packed bulletin lined up for you with news from across the country and around the world. Let's begin with the top stories you need to know. Trump says the US-China deal could be signed today. This as Xi Jinping and Donald Trump are meeting in South Korea. And as the US and China have seen a turbulent few months despite a shaky trade truce in May to put a stop to tit-for-tat tariffs. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will hold 2 public meets in Bihar. He's got mega rallies lined up in Muzaffarpur and Chhapra. Kicking off his Bihar poll campaign, Rahul Gandhi has launched a scathing attack on Prime Minister Narendra Modi, alleging that he would even dance on the stage for votes. The BJP says Rahul Gandhi has insulted the Prime Minister. In West Bengal, it's the TMC versus the BJP regarding the exercise of the SIR. The TMC accuses the BJP and Election Commission of spreading fear. The BJP hits back and says Mamata Banerjee's government is provoking people. And Shreyas Iyer is to be out of cricket for at least 2 months. The Indian batter underwent a procedure to stop the internal bleeding. And if Iyer misses the ODIs versus New Zealand, then he could return versus England in time for July 2026. We begin this bulletin with the latest we're tracking. As we speak, US President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping are behind closed doors. Their high-stakes meeting is taking place on the sidelines of the APEC summit in Busan in South Korea. And just minutes before stepping in for this crucial meeting, Donald Trump made a statement that has sent ripples through global markets. He has indicated a deal could be signed today, the key word being could be. Responding to a reporter who asked if he expected to sign a deal today, the US president said, "We all have a great understanding and could be." The US and China have seen a turbulent few months, don't forget, despite a shaky trade truce in May to put a stop to tit-for-tat tariffs. You must note, Donald Trump has just called Xi Jinping a tough negotiator, but also a great leader of a great country. The US president added, and I quote, "I think we're going to have a fantastic relationship for a long period of time." The Chinese leader said he believes China's development goes hand in hand with Trump's Make America Great Again vision, and that he stands ready to work with America to build a solid foundation. My colleague Laura Westbrook is tracking the latest that's unfolding in South Korea. Priyanka Deo, meanwhile, joins us from America with the latest updates on the internal functionings of the Trump camp at the moment. Laura, to you first. Has the Trump-Xi meeting concluded? And are we seeing any sign of a joint statement or any announcement in Busan coming up?
Yes, this meeting between Chinese President Xi Jinping and US President Donald Trump is currently underway. And ahead of that meeting, we did hear from both leaders, with Donald Trump saying that they're going to have a fantastic relationship for a long period of time. Meanwhile, Chinese President Xi Jinping said that it is normal for the two leading economies to have frictions now and then. He also said that he always believes that China's development goes hand in hand with Donald Trump's vision to make America great again, and that the US and China should be partners and friends. So going into this meeting, Donald Trump has looked to project optimism. He said yesterday to business leaders here in South Korea that he hoped for a great outcome for the world. And negotiators from both sides have laid the groundwork for this meeting, saying that a framework consensus had been reached. And Donald Trump has also indicated that an agreement could include lowering those 20% tariffs on Chinese goods that are related to the illegal drug fentanyl. But high on Donald Trump's priority will be rare earths. Now, China has gone into this meeting leveraging its chokehold on these critical minerals that are used in everything from smartphones to EVs to missiles and drones by announcing that it was expanding restrictions on rare earths. It said that that was in response to the U.S. putting Chinese groups on a U.S. trade blacklist. Now, China has also leveraged its position when it comes to soybeans. It stopped buying American soybeans, and so this is something that perhaps Donald Trump will be also looking to gain from this meeting, hoping that China will resume its purchases of American soybeans. Now, this has hurt American farmers in the rural parts of the country, and this is a key support base of Donald Trump. So if he were to get that, that would be a political win for him. One of the other things we're looking out for is TikTok. Donald Trump has indicated that he wants to get a deal on TikTok finalized to transfer it over to U.S. ownership. On the Chinese side, they will be looking to lower tariffs when it comes to the illegal drug fentanyl, which are currently at 20%. Also, port fees and trying to get more access to these advanced AI computer chips. That has been a key issue for the Chinese side. But really, this meeting between the two leaders, it's the first since Donald Trump began his second term in office, and since then we've seen tensions really rise between the world's two biggest economies since this trade war began. So analysts are saying that this meeting between the two leaders is also about resetting this relationship. Beijing has also said it is looking for calmer dialogue between the world's two biggest superpowers.
Laura, speaking of a reset, tell us, how's the Chinese state media portraying this entire Busan meeting? Is it being perceived as a reset, or would you argue it's a continuation of a strategic rivalry?
Well, China has been saying very consistently that it does not want a trade war, but if the US wants one, it will fight to the end. But it has also said that it is open to a dialogue. And I think for the Chinese and from Chinese state media, they have really tried to say that they want to be looked at as an equal. They want to be treated as an equal and treated with mutual respect. So that's really what's come out from the Chinese side. We've also some Beijing advisors have also said that they are not necessarily looking for they are looking long term, and that this is really about resuming calmer dialogue between these two sides that has ratcheted up in recent months.
Right, Laura, thank you so much for joining us with the latest from South Korea. We will, of course, revert to you for regular updates. Let's get you an update from the US now with Priyanka Deo. Priyanka, how might India be indirectly impacted in crucial sectors like edible oil, agri-exports, or electronics manufacturing by any thaw that we see between Washington and Beijing? We are given to understand that a closed-door meeting has not concluded so far.
Well, a U.S.-China, I guess, cooling of tensions, if that happens today at this meeting, impacts India most directly in electronics and tech supply chains, because that's where India has been positioning itself as the China +1 hub, right? So if Washington and Beijing relax tariffs and stabilize trade, the short-term impact means more competition for India. U.S. companies may feel less urgency to diversify out of China. Some supply chain momentum flowing towards India could slow down. Chinese manufacturing remains cost competitive and highly scalable, and India may need to offer deeper incentives and faster infrastructure delivery to keep the investment pipelines moving, especially as U.S.-India trade talks are still ongoing and under negotiation. So essentially, India will have to work harder and will lose a little leverage to become the sort of global electronics assembly hub. In terms of long-term, China can't be fully replaced. Even in a thaw, the U.S. still wants supply chain security, tech controls won't fully roll back, and companies want friendshoring to avoid any sort of geopolitical risk. So India's opportunity remains real, but the pace of this sort of reshoring could become more steady than urgent. So I feel that, you know what, the strategic moves that India should be making now is double down on our semiconductor ecosystem, fast track PLI implementation to show delivery, not promises, target supply chain relocations from Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, and obviously strengthen the India-US tech corridor via defense, AI, chips, and 6G.
Priyanka, thank you so much as always for joining us with the lowdown. We'll of course revert to you for regular updates. Well, all eyes this morning are on South Korea, where US President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping are meeting on the sidelines of the APEC summit. It is a high-stakes encounter that could decide the direction of the global economy and possibly mark a new phase in the US-China trade relationship. Both leaders have kept expectations deliberately vague, with President Trump saying a deal could be signed today, while China's President Xi Jinping has kept his cards close, projecting quiet confidence as Beijing continues to use rare earth exports and market access as leverage. Here are all the crucial political reactions you need to listen to before both the leaders went in for that closed-door meeting.
Mr. President, do you plan to sign a trade deal today?
Could be. I think we'll have a great understanding. We have a great relationship. We've always had a great relationship. Well, thank you very much. It's a great honor to be with a friend of mine, really for a long time now, if you think about it. The very, very distinguished and respected President of China. And we will be having some discussions. I think we've already agreed to a lot of things, and we'll agree to some more right now. But President Xi is a great leader of a great country, and I think we're going to have a fantastic relationship for a long period of time. And it's an honor to have you with us. Thank you very much.
President Trump, it is a great pleasure for me as well to meet you. And it feels very warm seeing you again because it's been many years. Since your re-election, we have spoken on the phone 3 times, exchanged several letters, and stayed in close contact. Under our joint guidance, China-US relations have remained stable on the whole. Given our different national conditions, we do not always see eye to eye with each other, and it is normal for the 2 leading economies of the world to have frictions now and then. And in the face of winds, waves, and challenges, you and I, at the helm of China-US relations, should stay the right course and ensure the steady sailing forward of the giant ship of China-US relations. I always believe that China's development goes hand in hand with your vision to make America great again. Over the years, I have stated in public many times that China and the United States should be partners and friends. This is what history has taught us and what reality demands. A few days ago, in the latest round of consultation, our 2 economic and trade teams reached basic consensus on addressing our respective major concerns and made encouraging progress. This provided the necessary conditions for our meeting today. Mr. President, I'm ready to continue working with you to build a solid foundation for China-US relations and create a sound atmosphere for the development of both countries.
My colleague Vishal Vivek has been tracking this meeting very closely as well. He joins us from the newsroom with a crucial update currently. Vishal, in terms of an expected thaw, how much is this about optics and how much is it about tangible outcomes so far? What are the analysts and experts saying as both the leaders are in that closed-door meeting?
Well, that's a very good question, Parmeshwar. As far as optics are concerned, you can be rest assured that there will be optics, because every time Trump and Xi meet, every time Trump is involved in a big high-level bilateral meet, there are optics, and he's already seemed quite hyper excited about cracking a deal. When a reporter asked him whether there could be a deal signed today, to which he said there could be a deal. They have a great relationship. On the other hand, Xi Jinping did seem a bit positive, but he has so far seemed a bit mum on the whole topic, the big topic of whether the US and China will indeed crack a deal that will sort of end a trade war, because this has been a long protracted trade war. But there have been avenues from both the sides to bring this conflict, this trade conflict, to an end, because both the sides have had discussions, background discussions, several rounds of them. There have been several extensions of levying of the tariffs as high as 100%. So both the sides do recognize the need for there to be a deal. And Trump has also, encouraged the same. He has gone to South Korea to meet Xi Jinping. They're meeting now. The meeting has begun. The closed-door meeting has begun. To the press, both the sides seem really positive. They had some of the top-level, guys from both the sides. Marco Rubio was there from the U.S. side. On the Chinese side, we had the vice premier, the main foreign minister, Wang Yi was there. So we have all the top level guys from both the sides meeting and trying to thrash out the details. There are three main topics of discussion. The first one is, of course, the trade war. The second one is the overall TikTok deal that would, transfer the partnership of TikTok from the Chinese territory to the US. And the last one, and probably the most crucial one, is the rare earth metals deal. So what happened in the last 4 weeks is that the trade war escalated after China put some fresh curbs on export of rare earth metals, which are used in almost all electronic products, to which Trump responded by saying that there could be fresh 100% tariffs on China if the deal is not signed, if the trade deal is not signed by November 1. So we are just waiting. Within a few hours, there could be a deal. There are several rounds of negotiations lined up. Analysts expect at least 3 to 4 rounds of discussions before we have a final deal, but there will indeed be some positive signs coming out of this meeting.
We certainly hope so, Vishal. As always, thank you so much for breaking down all the details for us. Let's quickly go across to Laura Westbrook, who joins us from South Korea at the moment with a live update. Laura, we've heard Xi Jinping calling Trump's vision compatible with China's growth. That is, of course, significant. But is there a strategic rebranding of the US-China ties underway behind those closed doors?
Well, China really is going into this meeting with Donald Trump from a position of strength. It's managed to leverage its stranglehold on rare earths when it announced that it was expanding those restrictions on rare earths. It's also leveraged its, when it comes to soybeans, it stopped buying American soybeans during this trade war, instead buying soybeans from South America. Now, China is the world's biggest buyer of soybeans, and this hurts the rural voter base of Donald Trump. So really China hitting America where it hurts when it comes to the trade war. And really what many analysts say is that China has learnt lessons when it comes to this trade war from the first trade war during President Donald Trump's first term in office, and that it is employing tactics and strategies that it has learned from the first trade war. It also is willing, seemingly, to withstand some economic pain. And while the US is a crucial market, China has been working hard to diversify its markets to other markets as well. And so obviously President Xi Jinping will need to balance this strategy with some of the economic challenges that China is facing at home. It is facing a protracted property crisis. It's also facing high youth unemployment and deflation. But there are areas of growth, for example, when it comes to artificial intelligence. Since that DeepSeek moment, China has really seen a boom in AI. And so the way this trade war has played out is also really firmed up President Xi Jinping's vision that China become more self-reliant. For example, when it comes to those advanced AI computer chips, now the US has restricted China's access to those chips, and China has been working hard to try and build its own chips. And so and when it comes to rare earths, the US has been working hard to try to get access to rare earths, signing deals, for example, with Australia. So really these two countries seemingly are looking to become more self-reliant and less interdependent on each other.
As always, Laura, thank you so much for breaking down all the details for us and taking us through what to expect. Breaking news we're tracking at the moment, a politically charged showdown seems to be brewing in Karnataka, and it's unfolding right on the home turf of Congress National President Mallikarjun Kharge. The RSS has been granted conditional permission to hold a Path Sanchalan, which is a route march, in Mr. Kharge's political stronghold in Yadgir district, and this is being scheduled for the 31st of October. Why is the 31st of October? The date's significant? Well, it's the birth anniversary of Sardar Patel, a day the RSS often uses to assert its ideological messaging. But you must note that the district administration has cleared this march, but with strict caveats. Deepak Bopanna has sent us the finer details. He joins us live and breaks down all the information that has emerged. Deepak, take us through what the district administration has said and what are the strict caveats.
Note that multiple, requests of the RSS to hold marches, there were roadblocks, especially with the district administration seeking clarifications or, citing law and order concerns to do not give permission. Now, what we are referring to here is the request that was sent in Gamechanger. This again comes in Kalburgi. There was another, of course, in Chittapur. That is, of course, in the Karnataka High Court. The matter is going to be heard. As far as the Gamechanger, request is concerned, we've just been told that they have right now approved it, but have put in various conditions as well. Now, we'll really have to see, especially with just a few days ago, the Karnataka High Court, of course, even granting an interim stay on the, Karnataka government order saying that there should be permission that should be taken for any event which has 10 or more people, how this plays out. Now, this approval, of course, was issued by the Yadgir Deputy Commissioner, Harshal Boyer, and the march, of course, here will be held on the 31st of October, that is tomorrow. And the condition here is that they should not be carrying any weapons. So this would be very interesting considering the fact that the RSS, of course, holds their marches with, sticks in their hand as well. They've also, of course, put in restrictions to the route which will, have the march, and also to avoid any sort of sloganeering as well during the march.
Right, Deepak, thank you so much for joining us with the latest details that have emerged. We'll continue to track the latest. In fact, joining us on behalf of the BJP, we have with us Ashok Gowda on the broadcast currently. So thank you for your time. Is this Path Sanchalan in Kharge's home constituency, is it a symbolic political message from the BJP RSS combined?
We are not sending any political message. We are every year on the Vijayadashmi day or around the Vijayadashmi day, depending on the schedule of the each shaka, we do Path Sanchalan. But this year, because Priyanka Kharge wanted to divert the issues, the boiling issues of librarians' suicide or the rape which happened in Mysore or the failures of the government, they brought out this kind of an issue called RSS, and they also said we will ban the RSS because they could not tolerate They could not tolerate that people, whatever Congress says, whatever Priyanka Karge says, the people were not ready to believe. So that is why they went ahead and wanted to divert. That is why they said ban. We all knew that this cannot be because in the past also we have seen, whether it was in 1948, whether it was in 1975, whether it was in 1992, every time RSS was tried to ban, then the valid reasons were given that why it should not be banned, and the ban was revoked. And even the Patsanchalan also. Who is Priyanka Karge? Priyanka Karge is just an MLA and today is a minister. Tomorrow you might be nobody. But RSS is an organization which is going to create personalities who are going to contribute to the country and the nation as a whole and the mankind as a whole. So Priyanka Karge should remember this, that I or Priyanka Karge or anybody will not stay in the world, but the philosophy will stay, ideology will stay. That is an ideology which is built by RSS, and we are all proud that we are part of the RSS, so that our ideology has become more stronger than what we were before joining RSS. That is a message what we like to give it to Priyanka Karge. And today you should also know that you should not mess with the ideologies. You should only attack the issues. But he is trying to mess with an ideology which will be very deterrent to the Karge, and Karge should know that he has grown. Why? You should know his own history. Mallikarjun Kharge ji had suffered in a childhood just because of one ideology, and that is an ideology what we are fighting. If somebody forces us on others, that is the ideology what we are fighting for.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gowda, for joining us with your views on NDTV on behalf of the BJP. Joining us on behalf of the defense on the RSS, we have with us Ratan Sharda on the broadcast this morning. Mr. Sharda, we are, of course, waiting for the Congress to weigh in on whether they see this entire Patsanchalan on Kharge's turf as a direct political provocation. But critics are pointing out that this is ideological intimidation. How do you respond on behalf of the RSS?
First of all, the administration had no other way but to give permission, because High Court had already told them to give permission. They are not in favor to RSS or to Hindu people, Hindu society. Secondly, whatever kind of barriers they want to put in, they are totally ignorant about what RSS does. In RSS, this RSS Patsanchalan or the parade happens every Vijayadashmi. This time, because of 100 years, it was decided that it will happen in more and more places and decentralized with more centers rather than having one large parade. And when this parade takes place, there is never a sloganeering. In none of the RSS programs is there ever a sloganeering. You know it. If they feel the prayer in which they say Bharat Mata Ki Jai is a slogan, they will face consequences. And this effort to put hurdles in the way of Hindu consolidation or Hindu organization by a reformist organization like RSS is not going to get any support for Kharge except maybe Muslim vote bank and some push at the top in Karnataka politics. Because he should look at the neighboring state like Kerala, where the most trenchant critics and opposed to RSS ideology, the communists, have failed to stop its march. RSS is present in every village. More you try to suppress Hindutva, more will rise in a very stronger form. Unless Kharge understands it, he will never be able to withstand what is rooted in Bharat. So he should realize his father, as somebody pointed out from BJP, has suffered the consequences of the ideology which led to partition of Bharat, which led to huge violence in Hyderabad, in Punjab, Sindh, Bengal, etc. And we are a force which is trying to bring Bharat back to its own base with its own ideology, own philosophy, while Kharge is still living on borrowed ideas.
You've said your bit, Mr. Sharda, on behalf of the RSS. We now have a response from the Congress as well lined up for you, with Mr. Alvi joining us live currently. Rashid Alvi, does the Congress see this RSS Patsanchalan on Mr. Kharge's turf as a direct political provocation?
You know, Kharge Sahab has nothing to do with the law and order of Karnataka. It is the responsibility of Chief Minister and administration of the government. RSS has been given permission to they want to start their march or whatever it is. So what is wrong in it? They should be happy that government of Karnataka has allowed them. But if they are unhappy that there are certain conditions, they cannot carry weapons and danda and all that. So why are they upset? Whether they want to carry weapons in March, at least in Congress government it is not possible. It may be possible in Yogi Adityanath government. It may be possible in BJP government. But it shows that what kind of RSS is, what is the ideology of RSS. They are unhappy because they have been prohibited to carry weapons during its march. So this is the character of RSS, and that is the reason in some states they have never been allowed to carry any march, any public meeting. Sometimes it happens because wherever they go, they create law and order problem. They create Hindu-Muslim. They disturb the secular fabric of the country.
Right, the Congress there alleging that the RSS disrupts the secular fabric of the country, and wherever they go, they create problems. You've just heard from an RSS ideologue as well, and the BJP. We'll, of course, continue to track all the political reactions that follow. For now, let's turn our attention to the other breaking news story we're tracking. Well, a fresh controversy has erupted in Karnataka, this time from Bihar district, where government school teachers are in the dock for allegedly participating in an RSS Path Sanchalan. The block education officer has issued a show cause notice to several teachers and staff members who reportedly took part in marches that happened on the 13th and 7th of October. But what exactly was the trigger? Well, formal complaints filed by the Dalit Sena and Bahujan Seva Samiti, who argue that government employees must remain apolitical and outside the fold of any religious or ideological group. My colleague Deepak Bopanna has been tracking the latest developments for us. He joins us live with further clarity. Deepak, take us through all the finer details.
Well, it seems like the Karnataka government has made up its mind to walk the talk, because just last week we had several statements coming in from Congress leaders, the likes of Priyank Kharge, Mr. Santosh Lad, the Chief Minister himself, all of them citing the rules that exist preventing any sort of government servants from participating in any sort of events that are political or ideological in nature, which includes, of course, the RSS, and they did specifically mention that they see this happen very often. And Mr. Priyank Kharge had also written to the Chief Minister saying that there are already rules that exist, but most of them do not follow these rules, and including in his own department. And we've seen in the past as well, a few officers, action was initiated against them, and this is now in the education department, where 4 of them have been issued show cause notices and saying that they've participated in an RSS march, which is violative of the service rules, and if they don't give a satisfactory reply, then disciplinary action would be initiated against them. So we'll really have to see how things really go forward from here, because the state government, even as far as their government order mandating that permission is required for the RSS or any organization to hold events in public functions, though the Karnataka High Court had stayed that, given an interim stay at least, they've decided to even challenge that. So they want to really walk the talk as far as their stand on the RSS and like-minded organizations are concerned.
Thank you so much, as always, for providing further clarity. The latest coming in on NDTV at the moment. Well, it seems to have began actually as a party meeting. It's now snowballed into a full-blown political and legal storm. In Assam, a senior Congress functionary singing Amar Shonar Bangla, now the national anthem of Bangladesh, has sparked outrage, police action, along with a war of words. Our sources have now confirmed that the Assam police is set to register a case today with multiple Congress district leaders likely to be booked for treason. In fact, the state government isn't taking this entire episode lightly. Himanta Biswa Sarma has ordered a full-fledged probe, calling it an act of grave disrespect. But you must note that the Congress party has hit back hard, accusing the BJP of politicizing a song penned by Rabindranath Tagore, saying it represents Bengali cultural pride, not sedition. Senior leader Devrata Saikia and MP Gaurav Gogoi have argued that this is a deliberate attempt to alienate Bengali-speaking communities in Assam's Barak Valley. We've got crucial reactions lined up for you from both the Congress as well as Himanta Biswa Sarma. Listen in.
This is a blatant disrespect to the people of India, its national anthem, as well as it is in line with the new claim of various Bangladesh leading citizen that eventually Northeast will be part of Bangladesh. I have instructed Assam Police to register a case against the District Congress Committee of Sribhumi District and to take action as per the law.
BJP